It's good to be with you and to come here. I came by way of I-20. There's an option. You can go I-30 or you can go I-20. And my GPS told me I-20, so I came I-20. I came right up to Best Western Hotel right here at FM, what is that right there? At the light. And it said, take a left. And I took a left, go down to Honeycutt. Go down to Honeycutt, come up Honeycutt. It says, you have arrived. Did it twice. I said, maybe I missed something. And then I had to go to the gas station and said, would you tell me where the Best Western Hotel is? Oh, yeah, right. I came very, very close twice. But look, I'm very glad to be with you this evening. And so many of you out here on a Tuesday night, that certainly speaks of the fact that you and I recognize that there's an urgency in our nation. And that what we're facing is something that is absolutely staggering to the imagination. And I'm 60 years old. I'll be 61 in April. And I've been around here long enough to recognize that what we look like is not at all what we were. And what is right in America is now wrong. And what is wrong is now right. And we are witnessing an upheaval of a magnitude that is absolutely breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking. In fact, I believe it is so absolutely stunning to the imagination that many of us don't know what it is that we can do to address these issues that we're facing in America today, because they're happening rapidly over and over. When we look up, there's a thing happening over here that's unconstitutional, another thing over there that's unconstitutional. And we are witnessing something here that I think that if we don't do something about it now, it's over. It's over. I hate to sound negative, but at the same time, I am a pastor, and I am a trained pastor. I've been trained at Dallas Theological Seminary. I know how to read the times. I know the eschatological timeline that we're on. Men and women, we're facing the inevitable and eventual return of Christ at any moment. Not because of what's happening here exclusively in America, because of what we're seeing happening in the world. There are signposts, there are indicators for those of us who are trained and understand what to look for, to recognize that we are at a point where things are happening with such speed and such rapidity. If you remember in the book of Revelation, it says this: these things will happen shortly. That means when it starts happening, it will happen with such rapidity and speed that it being out of this world. But that's not what I want to come to talk to you about. I want to talk about some of the options that you and I have, because I believe there's still some efforts that we can do, although it may look insurmountable. And for many of us, as we look at it, it seems so insurmountable that it paralyzes us to do anything about it. We sit at home and wring our hands. Men and women, that's what they want. They want you to become so overwhelmed by what they're doing, by what you see, that you no longer have the faith to do what is required in order to rescue this republic. And whether you know it or not, men and women, we are on a rescue mission. And may I say to you, it is not the size of the sea ship that makes you sick, but it's the motion of the ocean, somebody say. It's not what you see that matters, it's who you know. And for many of us who are sitting here today, we know him and the pardon of our sins. We know him to be the awesome creator of the universe, a God who is omnipotent, who is in control, who's a sovereign entity, who laughs at men who think that they can overthrow him and dethrone him. I believe it was Karl Marx who said, my goal in life is to dethrone God and to destroy capitalism. It seems like in America we're on that path. However, I want you to know that we walk by, I don't know about you, I walk by faith and not by sight. It's not what you see that matters. Men and women, we know God and his purposes. And because we know him to be the awesome creator of the universe, who is sovereignly in control, then as long as I have breath to breathe and he has not called me home, I must what? Occupy until he comes. Occupy until he comes. I am the salt and light agent of the kingdom of God, and the public square needs to hear with thus saith the Lord about the issues that we're facing today. And so that means that you and I, who are in the family of God, have an obligation and a responsibility to be engaged. And our engagement must be targeted and focused with specificity. I often use this example that most of us know who have had any experience in the kitchen. You know, when you put the pot on the stove, you turn the water on, and inevitably the water begins to boil. That's energy. That's energy. But if you don't harness that energy and target that energy, that water will just boil away. And so you and I need to begin to harness the energy that we have experienced in the Tea Party movement and the conservative movement here in the state of Texas, and begin to narrow and focus our energy like a laser beam in order to get the results that we desire relative to the pushback on the tyranny that we're facing. How many of you know it's tyranny that we're facing? We're facing tyranny. And so I just stopped by today to encourage you, because I understand that many of us in the Tea Party movement are a little discouraged. And that discouragement happened on November the 6th, when we thought for sure America would not tolerate another 4 years of this madness. But we were stunned to find out that this man won. Not only did he win, but the ideology that is behind him won. And I think what's required of you and I is to discern the times, to discern this moment, to look very carefully with analytical eyes, and to recognize what we experienced on November the 6th was a titanic shifting of values in America. Hello? That we move from a Judeo-Christian ethic and from our Judeo-Christian heritage, and we shifted over towards a human secularist idea and philosophy that is anchored in me, myself, and I, concerned about me, myself, and I. That there has been in America a titanic clash between two worldviews. Those worldviews are battling even today. The Christian worldview versus the secular worldview. And quite frankly, men and women, the secular worldview is winning the day. They have won the argument among our children. Young people. I see one young person here, maybe two. I know you look young. Who are here. There ought to be more. Amen. But they're not here because they do not see the urgency of the moment, nor do they believe that our concept or our ideas, which are sourced in the founding principles of this nation, which are undergirded by the Judeo-Christian ethic, American exceptionalism is tied into those principles and that ethic. You know we have been successful because we have held on to our Judeo-Christian frame. And to talk about American exceptionalism apart from our Judeo-Christian ethic is to do violence to our history. And anyone who would tell us that is telling us a lie. America is great because we have embraced those Judeo-Christian ethics. And so I just want to stop by and talk to you a little bit, because I know we're kind of discouraged. We've been hit, we've been beat. But let me tell you something. Winning the war sometimes means you'll lose a few battles. Come on, somebody. We lost a couple of battles. That's all. The war is not over. And you do not have a right to go home and sit down and to retreat and bellyache and whine about, oh, woe is me, America's finished. No, it isn't finished. As long as you got breath to breathe, you can fight. Fight, patriots. Fight. Yes, the odds seem to be against us, but no more against us than they were for our founding fathers, who went up against the strongest, most mighty, powerful army in the world, and they won. Men and women, the same thing that was facing them is facing us now. What was facing them was tyranny. King George tyranny. who dictated to the 13 colonies what they can and cannot do. Sounds familiar? We're getting the same thing now. Telling us what kind of light bulbs we can buy, what kind of toilets to put in our house, if we can grow a garden in our backyard. The government is overreaching into our lives and intruding into our liberties and into our freedoms, which, by the way, is not sourced in man, is sourced in God. Do I sound a little religious? I am, because I happen to believe, men and women, that what we're fighting is a spiritual engagement. This thing is far more spiritual than many of us want to admit. That the fight that we're having and the crosshairs have been aimed towards the church of Jesus Christ right here in America. And if they can get rid of the church, they can run ramshackle over this culture. And they're trying to do that now. And I see it as a pastor. And I see it as a man of God and as someone who is in the family of God, recognizing that this administration and this culture has been pushing against Christians and trying to push us out of the public square and to minimize and to negate our influence in the public square. Men and women, the only way that we can win this, we must step back into the public square and boldly say, "Thus saith the Lord." Amen. About abortion, euthanasia, embryonic stem cell research, human cloning, and the redefinition of marriage. 5 issues that are on the table today that will ultimately determine who we are as a people. And we are losing the argument on that. Not because we don't have the goods to make a solid reputation of the truth. It's because we won't talk. Why is that? Part of the reason is because of this thing called PC, political correctness. Most of our pastors are more concerned about being PC as opposed to being BC and undergirding their BC with CC. Political correctness does not trump biblical correctness. Amen. And biblical correctness is the reason why we have constitutional correctness in the first place. Come on, somebody. Amen. Now, if you're anything like me, before the election, I was just absolutely livid at the unconstitutional acts that were coming at us out of Washington, D.C. And by the way, I'm here to announce to you that all 3 branches of the government have been involved in unconstitutional acts. All 3. All 3. And quite frankly, our representatives in Washington, D.C. have an obligation and responsibility to protect our liberties. Did you know that? They upheld their hands and swore to protect the Constitution from foreign and domestic enemy. And so the first line of defense for us is our elected officials, that they must protect our Constitution. But they haven't done it. And we see it in this thing called NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which has indefinite detention in it. It was written by and framed, that illegal, indefinite detention was put in there by John McCain and Senator Carl Levitt from Michigan at the request of Barack Obama. And so they put that inside there, sent it up to Barack. He signed it. He first acted like he was against it, then he signed it as soon as it came. And he signed it in the night. And so it became law. And so the government, the federal government, has a right to arrest any of you in here if they determine that you are a threat to the nation, if you are a terrorist. And by the way, the intelligence survey that was created by Janet Napolitano identifies all of you sitting in here as terrorists. If you're a Christian, you're a terrorist. If you're pro-life, you're a terrorist. If you're an ex-military that just got out of the military and came home, you're a terrorist. If you own guns, you're a terrorist. If you've been storing food in your house and putting away water for any potential hazard, you are a terrorist. Did you know that? That's true. That came out. I wrote a blog on it in 2009 that was titled Labeled to Intimidate. that they label us to intimidate us into silence. I went to the pro-life communities and said to them, we must respond to this. If we don't, then they will have labeled us as terrorists because we're standing up for the lives of babies. And the pro-life community said nothing. There was only one group that stood up and challenged Janet Napolitano's definition of who we are, and that was the veterans. The veterans went to, if you're paying attention at all, you remember, they went on and said, look, don't label us terrorists. And she lifted the definition only from them. And so the rest of us are still labeled terrorists. It has not been applied yet, but wait for the next crisis. Wait for the next crisis. And so the NDAA, many of you are uncomfortable with the Patriot Act, where they violate our privacy, can surveil us at any time if they think we're terrorists. That's unconstitutional. And so I was looking for my representative, Eddie Bernice Johnson, to stand up for my liberties. It didn't happen. Eddie Bernice Johnson is a professed socialist, and she's a part of the Socialist Caucus inside the House. Did you know that there was a Socialist Caucus in there? Yes, it is. But Eddie Bernice Johnson did nothing. John Boehner did nothing. Pete Sessions did nothing. Sam Johnson did nothing. You know where I'm headed, don't you? Ralph Hall did nothing. I swear to uphold and to protect the Constitution from foreign and domestic enemy. They didn't do their job. And when they don't do their jobs, men and women, we ought to hold them to an account. Amen. But because we're not paying attention at the level that we should, what happens is that we re-elect these guys. And they go right back in. And yes, they have a conservative record. But they do not protect the liberties that are ours. And our liberties are going away. And so I sat up one day and I heard that an executive order came down the pipeline. It was called a DREAM Act. I mean, remember that? And that the president, through an executive order, trumped legislation that was signed in 1996 that if any illegal alien is found that they are put in the pipeline for deportation. He trumped that by making an executive order, which put those who are keeping the executive order in conflict with the law of the land. Now I know that the House is going to stand up and stop them. That John Boehner and Mitch McConnell is going to stand up and say, President, you've gone too far. This is an illegal act. We will meet you in court. Didn't happen. Man, I'm upset now. I got the Patriot Act. I got NDAA. Now I got the DREAM Act. And just a plethora of executive orders that are coming down that are clearly unconstitutional. Just 3 weeks ago, the president signed an executive order to federalize all police agencies around the country in times of emergency. Clearly unconstitutional, violates state sovereignty. No one said nothing. I sat in Ken Marchant's office and I said, are you aware of the fact that this happened? I had the legislation and all of it right there in front of me. I had the executive order in front of me. He said, no, I had no idea that happened, Pastor Broden. None whatsoever. He didn't even know that illegal indefinite detention was inside NDAA. We told him about it. He said, oh, didn't know about that. Had no idea. We pay you to know. We elected you to know what's going on. Why don't you know? Part of the reason why they don't know is because of us. We have not held them to account. And so I'm looking at all these unconstitutional acts. I mean, it's just a plethora of them. Listen, not only out of the executive branch, but also out of the legislative, because they're the one who crafted the NDAA bill and the Patriot Act. also out of the judiciary. Clearly, what Justice Roberts did was unconstitutional. It went beyond the enumerated duties specified in the Constitution to the Supreme Court. They are not to write legislation. And he found a way to legalize Obamacare by turning it into a tax. Remember? Instead of John Boehner saying, I'm sorry, Justice, you've gone too far. That's not your duty as it relates to the Constitution. That's our duty, not yours. Boehner said nothing. O'Connell said nothing. But I was screaming at my television. I know you were too. What is this man doing? He can't make that into a law. 70% of Americans did not want Obamacare, and all three branches took it and just shoved it right down our throats and got away with it. So far. The question is, what can we do? And so I began to explore and to look at the Constitution one more time. You know, every now and then when you get a little sick and tired of what's going on, go look at the Constitution. Because in the Constitution is an answer to this madness, to this morass of confusion that's coming at us out of Washington, D.C. And by the way, parenthetically, may I say to you, that what Justice Roberts said was that it is a tax. And he was talking specifically about what the Senate had done in their version of NDAA. If you hear correctly, they cannot appropriate taxes. Where does that happen then? In the House. It was determined not to be a tax. Where? In the House. And the House, to this day, have not determined it to be a tax. It's clearly unconstitutional. But until we rise up, not waiting for our elected officials to do anything, but to go put their feet, just grab their feet and put it right on the stove and say, psst. Is that hot? You got 2 years to get it right. If you don't, we're after you. And so I looked at the Constitution again, and I stopped at the First Amendment. You know the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or forbid the free exercise thereof. That's the first two planks. We know that one well. The second two planks have to do with freedom of speech and the freedom of the press. Then there's the fifth. And this one caught my attention. That Americans have a right to peaceably assemble and to petition redress for grievances. The word redress means what? It means a remedy for a wrong or an ill perpetrated against we, the people. And we have not petitioned redress. I've looked and tried to determine when have we in modern times ever done it. We haven't done it in the 20th century, we haven't done it in the 21st century. I believe that it happened regularly at the beginning of the nation. The people would come up and say, we don't like what you're doing, and you need to stop it. We need to start doing that again. And so I formulated a group called the Constitutional Defenders of Texas. Constitutional Defenders of Texas is a watchdog group who will be watching all three branches of the government to determine what they are doing. And if what they are doing is unconstitutional, we're going to demand redress. Now, we don't have to wait and start right now to do it. So what we did is we went back 4 years ago, and we began to chronicle and list unconstitutional acts. We came up with over 50 in 2 days. I told my group, time out, stop, let's stop. 50 is a lot. Let's take this list of 50s, identify the more egregious ones, move them to the top of the list, and then go right to our representatives and demand redress. We created a letter, a petition, put it on our website, that you would petition redress for the unconstitutional acts. We named a few that we want them to address. And so what we've done, men and women, we put together an organization we believe that will address many of our concerns. It's an action that we can take. It's a simple action. Just sign the petition. Send it to your representative. Tomorrow, how many are here tonight? About 30 of us here tonight. Ralph Hall ought to get 30 petitions from you guys tomorrow. Signing petitions that we demand redress. We demand redress. Tell your neighbors, go sign it. Get as many people in his district to sign it. When you do that, let me know that you've done that. Then I want 5 of you to go with me to his office. And we'll sit in his office and say, Mr. Representative, Mr. Congressman, we are asking that you join our cause and petition, redress, and nullify all unconstitutional acts. Congressman Hall, that's what we hired you to do. Now, he'll hear you before he hears me. But I want you to go with me. We're going to do Pete Sessions. We're going to go through all the representatives in the state of Texas and sit down before them and say, here's our list. And we expect for you to help us to nullify all unconstitutional acts. What we're doing is exercising our constitutional right. It's a constitutional action. And we are in here, we're constitutionalists, aren't we? Yes. And sitting at home on your couch, bemoaning the fact that these guys are running roughshod over us is not a constitutional act. We must get up and exercise our constitutional right. I'm going to share a couple of ideas with you, and then I'm going to open it up for questions. In a book I was reading by Matthew Spaulding called We Still Hold These Truths, is the name of his book. He says this in his introduction. Listen to what he says. Our revolution was about the idea upon which a new nation was to be established. Permanent truths applicable to all men at all times. And Abraham Lincoln later said, proclaimed that principles rather than will would be the ultimate grounds of good government, unquote. He said here that our nation was founded on permanent truths. Men and women, there is an attitude within Washington, D.C., and perhaps even among some of our elected officials, that the Constitution is a living document, malleable to the times. That's not what Matthew said here, and certainly what we don't believe. I certainly don't believe it's malleable, and that it is alterable, that it is subject to the strong will of a tyrant who will determine what it is and what it is not. I don't believe that for a moment. Because if that were true, the principles by which the Constitution was developed was that article or that document that is called the Declaration of Independence, to which Thomas Jefferson penned. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that all men are created equal. And if that principle is not true, then all men are not created equal, and I'm in trouble. You're in trouble. If the power elite says that you have no value because you don't contribute to the economy. And guess what? That's what they're saying right now. And that's why euthanasia is a threat to everyone sitting in this room right here today. Because some power elite has made a decision that there's too many folk in the world. And that there are resource hogs, quote unquote, resource hogs. That's what they call us, baby boomers, by the way. That we're resource hogs and that we need to mete out medical services to them based upon their economic viability. I've been saying that for 3 years. Sarah Palin said it, that there's death panels inside this Obamacare, and she was ridiculed and called names, and so was I. But here it is. They just impaneled 15 people in the IPAB, the Independent Panel Advisory Board, March the 23rd, 2012, this year. 15 people appointed by this administration who are ideologues who believe, as he believes, that there is no God and that man is the ultimate entity in the world. They are, listen to me, economic Darwinists. And all 15 of those people sitting on that panel, I guarantee you, they are not Christians and they don't believe in God. Hello? been screaming this for years. And you know what the Tea Party was telling me? Pastor Broden, stay away from the social issues. Stay away. It's the economy. It's the economy. Look, there is a connection between the economy and social issues. Amen. God can't bless our economy if we're killing 54 million babies. Amen. God can't bless our economy if we are now making a decision as to when granddaddy can die or grandmother. God can't bless the economy when we're redefining what he calls marriage. Amen. Between a man and a woman, we're telling God, well, you know, I'm evolving now and I no longer believe in what God has defined as marriage. That's what the man was saying. Now we're looking at same-sex marriage. We're seeing men kissing each other on television. You turn the television on, there it is. And not only are you seeing that, but your 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and 5-year-old are witnessing that. And now they're confused as to what marriage is all about and what the genders are all about. We're being redefined, and it's a spiritual redefinition. And they're telling me, Broden, don't talk about social issues. No, 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 you're wrong. There's a clear connection between the two. Because blessings of our economy comes from God. Amen. He blesses us to be successful. Wealth comes from God. He gave us the power to make wealth. He did that. And now we're going to ask him, God bless America. These are permanent truths, applicable to all men at all times. We have been given a set of principles that have played a major role in the success that we enjoy here since the founding of our nation. We call them founding principles. Do you know what they are? What Matthew Spalding did is he took time to list them. And this is the first guy. I've heard the founding principles. I always thought rule of law, you know, personal duty and responsibility, fiscal responsibility. No, that's not it. He listed them. May I share them with you? The first one is liberty. Liberty. Second is equality. Third, natural rights that come from God. Consent of the government. That is, you and I give consent for them to work on our behalf. Religious freedom, which is in the crosshairs right now. Churches are under threat of being shut down if they don't buy into Obamacare. Private property. 7, the rule of law. 8, constitutionalism. 9, self-governance. And 10, independence. Those are the 10 founding principles that made this nation great, and all 10 of them have their source in the Word of God. Let me say this to you. This is what John Adams said about our Constitution. And I want you to pay attention to what he's saying, because if what he's saying is true, then maybe what we have today is something other than what he believed. He says, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Unquote. Pay attention to what he said. This Constitution is for a moral people. Are we a moral people today? No. The conduct of this country is anti-constitutional. We're no longer a nation that respects the moral code of Scripture. And if that be true, then they have rendered our Constitution inept and no longer relevant by the action of the populace. That's why it's important for you and I to stand up and to remain standing. To remain standing. There's an old Negro song that sang about freedom. You probably heard it. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. And before I be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to be with my Lord. Those songs used to be sung in my neighborhood. King said that we are still standing, and they're trying to force us to bow our head. He says, I will not bow my head. My head is bleeding, and they're beating me in my head, but I will not bow my head. That's the kind of tenacity that is required of you and I today. We will not be defeated. We will continue to stand because we recognize greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And we will stand. And men, I will go down fighting. I don't know about you. But I'm standing up and look, I've taken heat. I'm toxic in my own community. I'm hated because I'm tied with the Tea Party and the Republican Party, who they believe are racist and insensitive people, uncaring. They don't know the truth, but I know the truth. That's okay. I get scalded at. People look at me down their nose at me. I just keep right on walking with my head up because I know I'm on the side of God. Amen. Matthew Spaulding goes on to say this. I'm almost done. Quote, he says, our nation's founders knew that the perpetuation of liberty would always depend on spirited citizens and patriotic statesmen, actively engaged in the democratic task of governing themselves, holding to the truth of 1776. Spirited citizens, patriotic statesmen who are actively engaged in holding to the truth of 1776. Men and women, do we understand 1776? Do we understand the spirit that was behind the founding fathers? They were facing tyranny. What did they do? How did they respond to tyranny? With their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. Men and women, we can do no less. We can do no less. It is required of us today to do the same. We must do the same. And our example will be an example to our children. And as we stand for liberty, and as we stand by making the sacrifice of time, talent, and treasure, our testimony will be recorded in history that there was a group of men and women who stood up for the Constitution and who fought and pushed as hard as they could against the tyranny that they were facing. We may not win, but let history record that Texans stood up. Freedom-loving Texans stood up and defied the odds and worked until they could have victory. I'm going down swinging. How about you? So that spirit must be birthed. It must be alive and activated. I believe that's what God called me to do. He called me. I didn't have this. I didn't look at the Constitution and came up with this. He directed me there and pointed me to peaceably assemble and petition redress. And I've been speaking across this state. And everywhere I've gone, people have shook their heads and said, yes, we need to try that. We need to try that. Because what we have tried by voting these knuckleheads in has done nothing to support or to protect our liberties. I'm sorry, it hasn't happened. I love Ralph Hall. He's a great storyteller. He's 87 years old. I don't believe he got the fire in his belly to fight for me. Amen. Yes, he's been good. He's been a good man. But where is he now? He doesn't have that fire.
He's co-opted. They all are.
And so we need to petition redress. Redress moves us in the area of nullification. Nullification. What is nullification? Thomas Woods wrote a book called Nullification. He said this: the central point behind nullification is that the federal government cannot be permitted to hold a monopoly on constitutional interpretation. Hello. The federal government, that means the executive branch, the legislative, and the judiciary. We think the judiciary is the one who holds the other two to what is constitutional. Not so. That's why we're killing babies today, because of the judiciary. We cannot trust the courts to make the kind of interpretation that's consistent or congruent with the Constitution. It requires us. The compact is between the states, that is Texas with Oklahoma, Oklahoma with New York, New York with California. That's where the compact is. It's not the compact between the states and the government, no. The government is a creation of the states. And we tell them what to do. They don't tell us what to do. They work for us. Am I right about it? Then we need to start acting like the master and not the slave. Cannot be permitted to hold a monopoly on constitutional interpretation. If the federal government has exclusive right to judge the extent of its power, warned James Madison and Thomas Jefferson in 1798, it will continue to grow regardless of elections, the separation of powers, and other touted limited government expressions. Isn't that what's been happening? Every few years they come and they speak our nomenclature. They sound like they're conservative. But when they get to Austin and get to Washington, D.C., it's something else. And we keep replacing them with the same people doing the same thing. He goes on to say this, and I'm almost finished. A constitution, after all, is only a piece of paper. It cannot enforce itself. Checks and balances among the executive, legislative, and judiciary branch, a prominent feature of the Constitution, provides little guarantee of limited government, since these three branches can simply unite against the independence of the states and the reserved rights of the people. And that's precisely what has been happening to us. They have collaborated together to take away our rights and our liberties. By the way, our God-given rights and liberty. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to get involved constitutionally. And I submit to you that the Constitutional Defenders of Texas has a method. We can petition for redress. We can do it. We can do it. Alexander Hamilton, in conclusion, said this. And he was no constitutionalist, but he said this in the Federalist paper, Federalist 78, that there is no position which depends on clearer principles than that every act of delegated authority, contrary to the tenor of the commission under which it is exercised, is void. Wow. He's right. What he said here is that every delegated act of authority, contrary to the tone and the tenor of the commission is what? The Constitution. It is null and void if it contradicts the limitations and the specificities that are applied to all three branches. Void. So we sat down with Ken Marchant and said, we expect for you to nullify NDAA. We want you to go to the well, into the floor of the House, and declare these acts are unconstitutional, and read them out and say they have go contrary to the Constitution, therefore they are null and void. And Mr. President, if you want to contest this, let's go to the courts. And if the courts rule against the Constitution, we will impeach every Supreme Court justice that rules unconstitutionally. Get him off the bench. and put somebody who respects the Constitution on. Yes, that sounds like that's insurmountable, that's a daunting task, but we've got to do it. And we've got to force those guys who represent us to represent our interests. We just got to do it. Now, here's what I want you to do. I need your help. We're going to put up some billboards across the Metroplex, north, east, south, and west. And we're going to be directing people to sign the petition. We're going to announce to them that your congressmen have been supporting unconstitutional acts. Some kind of phraseology that will trigger phraseology will cause people to want to dial the number and find out what's going on. But I need your help. I need your money. I need for you to write checks to me tonight that we can do that. We are short $5,000 of having what we need to get there. And I'm sure some of you in here got that much money. If you wanted to, you'd give it to me and it's over. I'd be there. That's all right. But if you just want to invest, invest. If you invest with me tonight, you're investing in this act. I want you to give me a check for $100 plus. Write the check out to the Fair Park Friendship Center. It's a 501c3 organization, and you'll get your tax deduction for it between now and the end of the year. Because I don't know what's happening after the first of the year. All charitable donations may go out the window as far as we know. But this is the time to do it. So I need you to do that. Make out a check, $100 plus to Fair Park Friendship Center. Then I want you to go to my website. And I'll have a card with my website information and sign the petition tonight. Once you click on the button that says sign our petition, it'll take you to the petition, read it through, read the language that we have. Go to the bottom, type in your zip code. It will pull up Ralph Hall and the two senators. And it will send an electronic copy to them. They will respond. They will respond. Usually it's a song and dance, and it's an articulation, I am Constitution and I support the Constitution, but you have not dealt with these unconstitutional acts. I just want you to get letters into them. So when you get letters into them, they won't be surprised when I show up at their door with you to demand that they give us a redress, a remedy towards these unconstitutional acts. Now, you can do that, or what you can do is take your phone out now. If you have a smartphone. Anybody got a smartphone in here? All right, I want you to take your smartphone out and just follow me. Follow me, just take it out. And if you have the ability to send text messages, I want you to text to this number, 313131. Inside your text box there, type in capital CDOT, Constitutional Defenders of Texas. And it will send it, and automatically we will send you the website where you can go sign the petition. That's the only thing we're doing. It doesn't go in a database. We're not care. We're just sending you where you can go and do the. You can do it right now while we're sitting here. You can do it on your phone. You click on it, go to the website, click on the thing, and sign the petition right now if you want. Y'all look nervous. It's a legitimate thing to do, and I'm sure you'll find that it will be an easier thing to do than trying to remember the website. But I do have cards, and I want to give those cards to you, and I have brochures that I want to give to you. And if you make a contribution tonight, I have a book and a t-shirt for you, and my lapel pin that says Constitutional Defenders in the state of Texas. You'll get that if you make $100 or more donation. I need your support, men and women. And I saw you shaking your head in here saying that we got to give the same sacrifice that our founding fathers did. Lives, fortune, and sacred honor. And this is the test. This is the test. I'm asking you to trust me as a pastor, as a man of God, and I'm not going to abuse your money. I'm going to buy those billboards. I bought an ad in the Dallas Morning News. The group that's over a little ways, I think, from here, I did a presentation over there, and they contributed to us, and we were able to buy a newspaper ad that ran in the Dallas Morning News that was exposed to 630,000 people. Now, they didn't sign the petition like I was hoping. Some did. However, we believe that we've got to put the message out into the public square. People are oblivious to what's going on. You are unique. that you guys are paying attention, you know what's going on. Most Americans don't. They don't know. And we need to put a message into the public square that will cause them to think. And we have sophisticated marketeers who understand how to message and get the message out that will cause people to at least go to our website and check it out. But I need your help. I came here because I wanted to talk to you and to encourage you, but also to leave out of here with my pockets full. Amen. I'm asking you to invest in this effort. It's a constitutional effort. Not only invest your time and your money, but also sign the petition. A lot of people shake their head and agree with what I'm saying, but I don't see a whole lot of people signing the petition afterwards. You need to sign the petition. If you can't give any money, that's fine, but sign the petition. Sign the petition. And let's put some heat on these guys. Now, one more thing. I just need to announce this to you because I just got back from a Gulf Coast Summit. How many of you know there was a Gulf Coast Summit? All right. I was there, and Bob, you were there?